So I think I've already given a quick intro about ourselves. TDeFi is a crypto incubator and advisory. We've been there in the space for the last 3 years, 50 incubations, 2 unicorns, a whole bunch of upcoming unicorns in the next 2 years. And, we are focused on crypto and crypto only. So we are a token only company and a token only advisory. Although that doesn't mean we are not working with companies that don't have a token, and that's what brings me to Baron Moneybridge, and I'll pass it on to him to introduce himself and his project in 2 minutes.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Baron Koch, Moneybridge. So mass adoption is a perfect panel for us to be on. That's the goal, right? I think that's everybody's goal. I heard a gentleman in the panel before. I didn't hear the details, but he was talking about the on-ramp process and the onboarding process and how that really leaves a lot to be desired, and that's what we're here to solve. So if you're familiar with the point of sale API transaction processing, so if a tokenized platform wants to distribute their token to their users, right now they've got to leave the website, go through this lengthy process to actually acquire the token. What we're doing is providing a solution where they can close that transaction without leaving the website. So that's the goal, is mass adoption. I think we've got a lot of thoughts on the matter, so appreciate you having me.
The other one on the same lines, and I'll bring it by relevance, is Lisa. Lisa, if you would want to introduce your project, how is it relevant to mass adoption? And I'll come back to you on this, but it's better if you guys talk a bit about your background, because crypto and DeFi mostly has this reputation of, chaps out of college building a finance protocol with absolutely no idea of what real world finance looks like. So what we also focus on is founders that have a background or a team that really knows what they're talking about. So maybe cover about your background quickly, and then we'll come to Lisa.
Sure. Yeah, I should have touched on that. So it's 3 co-founders in the group. We manage institutional money in the United States. We have about $3 billion under management. So our background is in allocation of institutional money. So when you look at DeFi and the potential here, I mean, there's a lot to be desired as far as bringing the products to a place where real investors are going to come in a real way. So I mean, I think that's a lot of the value we bring is in structuring this in a way that's attractive to the institutional investor and the retail investor alike.
Fantastic. Lisa? There's a button.
Thanks, Gaurav, for having us on the stage. My background is really, I spent most of my career in Apple and PayPal, so big tech in Silicon Valley. And I left in 2017 because I saw that the innovation was not happening anymore in big tech, and I saw that crypto had the opportunity to really change the world. My first crypto role was at BitMEX, which was quite an exciting time. We actually went from 10K of revenue a month to 83 million of revenue a month in my first 6 months there. So I've seen scale, and now at this point, I see that DeFi is at the same place that futures contracts was at in 2017. So I see us being having an imminent explosion of this space, the DeFi space, and that's how we got started. I was trading DeFi in 2020 when Uniswap V2 came out, and I was very frustrated because I didn't have the tools that I needed to make good decisions. So my co-founder and I started to build the tools to help me with my trading, and then now here we are. We got introduced to some banks, and our customers now are banks and financial institutions. And essentially our platform, Fluidify, is meant to guide investors to manage their capital while maximizing their profits and being as safe as possible in the DeFi world. Fluidify has $150 million on the platform now being managed, and we're ready. We're just opening the doors to allow mainstream clients to come in.
I want to take a tiny pause here. How many of you are here to learn about DeFi, like really explore the depth of DeFi? Isn't it eye-opening already? So no matter who I talk to, most of the people, like the top people in crypto, the top people in DeFi, when we tell them that there's a project with us that is managing money from the banks already in DeFi, it's like that's where they lose their shit. They don't believe banks will ever offer their money to DeFi, one. They never believe DeFi has the capability to even open a conversation with institution. And rest of everything, a startup that's a year plus, something like that. Two? Okay. Year plus, I'd still say. Has already accomplished such a huge CVL in these markets when all the fluff around the open DeFi pool is lost. They are actively adding more and more capital. So I would from here move to another lady on the panel that has accomplished quite a lot, Kimberly.
Good morning. I'd just also like to say we just partner with Fluidify on the mainstream adoption part of it, so we will be integrated in Fluidify. A bit of background on myself. So I was one of the founding employees of Bit.com. Some of you guys might know Gabriel Abed. Bit.com actually created the concept behind CBDCs. And I know it's a very controversial topic now, but I'm from Barbados in the Caribbean, and CBDCs represent a massive future for us. And it's a total different future that you see on the DeFi side. But I spent a lot of time in that space, understanding the regulatory landscape, understanding, what is the future for emerging markets, because at the end of the day, crypto was not created for, the next wealthy person in the US to just throw their money. Yes, it can empower those person, but it could also empower the person, the small guy that's living in Barbados, to have access to these financial products. So what we have been building at Bridge Network is essentially a suite of cross-chain tools. We are one of the most secure cross-chain bridge out there, and we started as just a bridge, but now we have developed into an entire ecosystem where your wallet address, your MetaMask wallet, Trust Wallet, whatever the case is essentially your bank account. So now you can access opportunities cross-chain, you can move assets cross-chain, you can move tokens cross-chain, you can access cross-chain yield strategies, and on top of that, you can access a virtual or physical card linked to your Web3 wallet, whereby if you have BUSD on Binance Chain, USDC on Solana, you can top it up and within 2 seconds, you have access to your crypto in the real world. So at Bridge Network, we're building out all the tools to empower every single person in the world, whether you live in the US or you live in the small island of Barbados in the Caribbean.
Fantastic. Did you talk about MasterCard already?
No.
We're not talking about it? Sorry. So I don't see a direct jump into any of the rest of the two panels, so I'll randomly pick one. I think Yashashvi, it'll be good for you to come in, explain a bit about your background, the kind of startups, the number of startups you have helped, and where does the solution comes from?
Hi, I'm Ashishwi. I'm a CPA based out in India. 10 years ago, I founded a consulting firm, which right now has 7 offices in South India and across 50 plus employees. From starting, I have been in the space of virtual CFO services, helping startups, get angel funding and then grow up to the CDCA rounds of this one. One of our major clients was Carrot Lane, which got acquired by Tata, Tanishq, so on and so forth. In this space, where we are managing the client's wealth, it later on comes to venture capital and private equity. We actually work with multiple VCs in getting the documentation, due diligence, and so on and so forth. Personally, out of my own interest, I did found out Bitcoin and Ethereum in 2016 and started investing myself. And then we came across ICOs in 2017. Until then, we started building a micro hedge fund, starting managing clients' money, and invested across more than 150 plus projects over the last 4 years, up to a $3 million AUM right now. Of course, there's ups and downs, and some of our best investments were in Aave, Matic, Helium, at the ICO stages. With this structure, what we wanted to build, what we have found is that Web3, because of its decentralized ecosystem, borderless ecosystem, where the money is crowdsourced across the world from small players, all kinds of players, there is a bit of lack of transparency between the founders and investors. With this understanding that we wanted to bring in the capabilities of a lead VC, the concept of the capability of a complete due diligence structure, a complete oversight, and a complete oversight of the progress and security of the funds of a lead VC to every small and retail investor in Web3. With that, we are building CR2 Guardian, a decentralized funding platform which enables decentralized due diligence. And we just launched our alpha version live yesterday, and we are onboarding startups and investors onto our platform.
Fantastic. I would want to give all of you a tiny use case and what it means for you. Why is a project like CR Square important for unsophisticated investors as well as sophisticated investors? So one of the reasons capital markets and capital through investors prevailed is that these guys knew something everyone didn't. They knew due diligence. They knew how to catch and trap projects into tough deliveries and then capital release on the top. That's where the retail investor lost their grip. Now what CR Square brings to the table is that the milestones, the deliveries of a project can be broken into, endless milestones, and there can be a release of capital every time a milestone is delivered. And then all of this is managed by a smart contract, so it doesn't matter if there are 4 investors or 400. Everyone is saved through the journey of the project. And rug pulls prevail in crypto, where a lot of projects raise money on documents and then they don't deliver. This is the case where if a project fails to deliver even a single milestone over their larger journey, you get your money back as investors. So I want to pick up a tiny topic before I move on to the introduction, because we have to talk to the audience as well. I was on the VARA roundtable yesterday, and we were discussing about compliance and how governments would make crypto mainstream, and what do regulators have to do to conserve investors' interests. And an argument that gradually, organically came out from me every 30 minutes to almost every question is that crypto has those answers. Smart contracting has those answers. They're already thought of. Most of them are already thought of. It's at an arm's distance. All you got to do is talk to the innovators. They'll build it for you. And this is not like the usual solutions. It's not a private company that you have to have a track record to work for you. It's a smart contract. Read through the lines. You know what it does. Implement it. So I'm very proud of CR Square and the work they are doing in favor of consumer interest, investors' interest. With that, I would want to move to Equate, which is a data-driven company towards crypto. They're pretty silent, have been building in stealth for the last 3 years, out of their own pocket mostly. I think worthy of attention of the crowd.
Thanks, Gaurav. So my background is that before starting with my own venture, I was working for Government of India, Ministry of Science and Technology as an officer, where my prime responsibilities were implementation of ERP solutions across 48 laboratories, and which we successfully did. But then I realized that it is all centralized, and because of the pressures from senior officials, the vendors are forced to make changes which they are not supposed to, and I realized that this is something that needs to change, and this is where blockchain can come in handy. And so I finally quit my job. I had also worked with Election Commission and I had conducted 2 elections in over 30 constituencies across Delhi. So after quitting my job, our focus was to enable governance-based democracy, and that is where we are starting, and we are building a decentralized society using soul-bound tokens. And as we were talking about mass adoption, I think in order for us to get mass adoption, there are 2 things that need to happen. One is we need to bring traditional finance in Web3, and second, we need to solve the problem of custody. And both these problems we are doing by using our protocol, which is based on soul-bound tokens or non-transferable NFTs.
Beautiful. I don't even know why Mark is on a DeFi panel, by the way. who has set this up, but Mark, just joking. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey guys. So, who of you here finds NFTs scary, confusing, strange, or generally useless? Anyone? Yeah, so I'm surprised to see that actually. But generally, NFTs have a pretty negative stigma, especially with what's been happening in the last year or so, and especially play-to-earn games. So, play-to-earn games is where generally you have an NFT or some kind of other blockchain asset. You play a game and then you earn tokens or other NFTs or some kind of assets like that. But because games in the NFT space are generally not built to be fun first, what ends up happening is people are clicking buttons, selling these tokens, bringing the token price down, and as a result, it kills the economy in that company. So I'm Mark. I'm co-founder and CEO of Gunza Balatroon. We are a play and earn blockchain game, but we're trying to put the fun in the play and earn, because that's one thing that's desperately missing in this industry. We're trying to use our design UI skills, and you can see our art over at the booth there and see for yourself, to essentially bridge the gap between Web 2 and Web 3. So we're trying to onboard Web 2 gamers that traditionally are facing this negative stigma of crypto and NFTs. And while we have these Web 3 speculators and NFT holders who traditionally aren't gamers, there needs to be a bridge between the two. So we're onboarding them with design and trying to make the game as fun as possible. So for instance, you have a situation in a game where you earn something, like let's say an achievement. You have a combination that you played and the game rewards you for it and you get 5 points. Well, let's say now you have an NFT and you get to mint that and earn 6 points instead. So these minor cues are what we're trying to do to onboard people without really force feeding them crypto and NFTs. And using our gamer experience, a lot of us have been developers and business people, but most of all, we are gamers first. So we're trying to take our skills and create a fun game first of all. We have a large crypto community, but they are mostly speculators and investors. So now is where we transition to really capture that Web 2 crowd. There's billions of gamers out there. There's plenty of people to educate on crypto and NFTs. And I'd love to go more and deeper into that, but I'm sure we'll get there soon, right?
I see a lot of people coming out of their mobile phones finally after 15 minutes of introductions. So, is there anything in your mind about mass adoption? It can be a simple question like, wow, I'll finish the question if you may allow. Fantastic. So that's probably the most engaging audience in the last 2 days across the last 25 events that we have done over stages. But great, glad to have you. So it can be a question as simple as this. How do you onboard me on DeFi? Does anyone has that question in mind? Okay, wow. Let's begin with that, right?
Thank you so much, Gaurav. We talk about DeFi, right? And there are things in DeFi that most people don't know. And one friction within the whole industry of blockchain itself is the lack of education. So when we talk about DeFi, you have things such as capital efficiency, TVL, which is largely a honeypot for hackers. What is the panel's plan on educating users? Because the more DeFi expands, grows exponentially, the likely it is to be hacked. Thank you.
Who wants to take the most deadly question?
I love to answer this, Kimberly, actually. So the first part of the question is, how do we onboard people? How do we gain trust? How do we get people on board? How do we simplify it enough so that people can understand it? And I would say that the partnership that we're starting now, Fluidify is very good with the accuracy. One problem we've had in DeFi is the lack of accuracy in all of the tools that exist right now. So we've addressed that. And another problem is the presence of bad pools, bad actors, pools that don't work. So at Fluidify, we've addressed both of these problems. We're filtering out all of the pools that don't work. We're testing them actively to make sure that every pool we present to a user is a valid pool. And we're excellent on the back end. Where we have not yet solve the problem is in making it easy to use, making it accessible to the regular user. And I'll pass it over to Kimberly to answer that part of the question.
Yeah. So, as Lisa said, they're very much focused on the security and infrastructure of it. I think on the mass adoption side, we need to stop using words like yield farming, cross-chain. I mean, I use that word a lot, but it depends on the audience that you're speaking to. These terminologies are super scary and it's confusing. And like TVL, for example, that just means AUM, technically, right? And it's really like simplifying the entire user experience and kind of stop overcomplicating it. And it's the same thing that we see in finance. Finance bros love to use all these complicated words to, blank out the average retail users. And I feel like we're doing that in crypto. We like to use all of these complicated terminologies when yield farming is just the same as interest. Interest on your idle assets. So why not just say that?
We are successors of the finance of the world, right? This is what we have got. This is what we have inherited. Complicated words.
Yeah.
I'm sure most of us have seen the movie The Big Short. And the way they explain in the beginning is, first of all, they create a shitty product and then they give it a complex name. Yeah. And that's how they lure you in, right? So I don't think we can do much with that, but
I would like to jump in on that point.
yes, sure.
So I think mass adoption of DeFi will always depend upon its predecessor, mass adoption of crypto. See, anybody who entered into crypto starts with the initial structure. They obviously start exploring into what's more, what's next to it actually. It's DeFi, it's NFT, it's play to earn, it's Metaverse. So adoption of crypto itself is going to increase the concept of DeFi. But obviously the learning curve effect involved in understanding a DeFi product, and then maybe it's lending and borrowing, maybe asset pools, liquid yield farming, interest rates, what you get. To understand this aspect, initially it's the people who understands finance a lot. They are the ones who should be tapped out, and they will come in if the user interface is much more easier. For example, most of the crypto users currently use Binance or any other CeFi applications because it's just click of buttons. I mean, what to go, where to go, and where to go. If that simplicity is bought into DeFi solutions, obviously, the adoption is the case.
I think more importantly than the question, the answers have successfully been able to put people back to their mobile phones. So, which means you're not talking in their language, right? The panel is here to educate. Let's not answer each other in sophistication and try to prove the skill, right? Let's try to educate. So next time, more simple. Can somebody handle the mic?
Just a quick question. When we talk about DeFi, I think if we talk about not retailer, but we are talking about the financial system and the big financial institutes, I believe one of the big risks at the moment is the vague regulation. Like how I can really build a DeFi or trust to put my investment or my money on any protocol, while I'm not sure if Gary Gensler will come next month and will say this is a security, and out of the sudden, like the whole protocol or the whole, and we have seen that, right? So I don't know what your thought on this. Thank you.
I think DeFi is also synonymous with responsibility, and any user.
I think finance is synonymous to responsibility.
Well, yes, but also a regular user who, some people prefer to use CeFi because they don't want to think about their private keys. They don't want to go and analyze a white paper to understand if this thing is a security or not. So for someone to just, for lack of better words, ape into a new product or just join a new farm, it's the individual's responsibility to educate themselves to see if this could possibly be a security. So I think it's just educating people that they need to be educated, that they need to make the effort to also educate themselves, because that's what crypto is about. It's about freedom, but with freedom comes responsibility.
I can
that's
weigh in
how
on
you
the-
learn. That's how you learn and evolve as a human.
Can I answer with a?
Oh, real quickly, I was going to weigh in on the institutional part because I agree. I mean, institutions are not going to come in unless it's a security, right? That's what we do for a living. Is it has to be structured in a way that these institutions are comfortable with, right? So whether that means creating commingled funds, closed-end funds, drawdown vehicles, that kind of thing, it has to meet the investor where they are currently, as opposed to saying we require you to educate yourself. mean, I think educating yourself on the benefits of crypto is huge, but to actually use it, I think it's on the institutional players, the people in the industry to build something that they know how to use already. So from an institutional standpoint, I think the regulations are always going to be a risk, but if you have an institution that's trustworthy and reputable standing in between the investor and DeFi and saying, we've packaged this in a way that you're familiar with and is digestible, that to me is the solution. And maybe a little bit against the pure ethos of crypto, which I completely understand, but I think the sentiment is changing a little bit to where people are willing to give up a little bit of that pure crypto sentiment in order to attract more capital. At least that's our impression.
Baron, you literally stole words from my mouth. Exactly the fact. I think institutional and retail adoption will happen parallelly. One can wait. The one that are more skeptical can be using an institutional product. So for example, the way Lisa solves it, the 120 or 150 million that she's managing belongs to thousands of users of the bank, right? And they don't even know it. It's just being managed. They're getting benefited from DeFi. So the onus is on us as creators to create solutions that have and are interacting, that have the tools and are interacting to both the parties. Because once retail jumps in directly, obviously you'll be bigger than institutions. But while it happens, you have to be more adopted by those institutions. To answer your question precisely, now that I've been told to leave the stage, and there is no time there, so I was not prepared for it. So I'm going to steal 5 extra minutes. Look, this is what we are discussing everywhere. This is happening with every emerging markets. This is happening to money as we talk, right? This is happening to USD, the reserve currency of the world. So there's no clear answer to this. Regulations, humans, governments, countries, all of this will evolve parallelly. You have to find your slot in between all of this, right? It's your choice. You have to rely either on institutions or on the protocols directly. The risk to reward is synonymous to that.
I just want to ask the audience, when was the first year that you used PayPal? Think about it in your head. When PayPal came out, it was completely illegal. And what they did was they came in with a product that everybody needed, and adoption happened, and the law changed. That's where we are, I think, today with DeFi.
Beautiful. So I won't be able to take more questions because of this guy. He's to be blamed. You can do whatever you want to him, to do to him. Any closing statements, any closing remarks? I think what has been left out is 2 guys who haven't been able to express their perspective. We'll quickly take 1.5 minutes each, which I know will be extended to 2. How are you contributing to mass adoption? How will you onboard these people to crypto? Mother, and then later.
So for us, what we are doing is we are implementing soul-bound tokens, which are basically non-transferable NFTs. Now they have 2 benefits over normal NFTs, is that in case a user loses their private key, they don't worry that their funds are going to get lost. They can even, with certain biometric authentications inbuilt, they can even publish their private key on the social network and still be, relaxed that nobody is going to take away their money. So we are trying to build in this kind of security in the system using soul-bound tokens, where on the basis of your social recovery group, the people you trust, like your friends and family, you'll be able to recover your funds without relying on any intermediary.
Cool.
Yeah, so as we are a game above all, it's a little bit different than these guys here. Very serious products, right? We're just trying to have fun. But one thing that we're really going to work on is once we launch our mobile apps, they're going to be very Web 2. So gamers are going to feel familiar and comfortable with them. There's not going to be anything crypto or NFTs about it, except for little visual cues that are going to guide them in the direction of trying to explore more about the game and getting progress, exclusive access to more premium tournaments or better earnings, because it is a play and earn game after all. So one thing that we're doing overall is sort of taking this Web 2 approach. It's a little bit different than the traditional Web 3 ethos. But in the gaming world, it seems like the most natural thing to do is to make the game fun first, start to educate the player on how they can earn with the game, but then explore more and give them a variety of NFTs to create this ecosystem to keep them there. And all the progress that they make in this game is essentially monetized. So instead of spending 3, 4, 5 months playing a game, moving on to the next one, and then they can't do anything with their assets because they're just numbers in a database, they essentially own these NFTs, and this progress, this monetary progress that they make, they can transfer to another player that's seeking to buy into the game a lot faster.
Fantastic. I appreciate all of you for being a fantastic audience, listening to us, not diving into your mobile phones. Everything starting from the entrance of this stage to the next one is TDeFi. All the projects exhibiting themselves are partners to us, are working with us. I can definitely assure you you'll have a good time, a good use case, and a lot of knowledge simply by dropping down to the booth. Ken, don't kick me. I'm already going out. Don't do that. So thank you for having us.
Okay, I got a question.
You have time?
I sent you a WhatsApp while you were moderating, and you sent me a reply.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Efficiency.
I was messaging him while he was talking. He was actually chatting with me. That's.
Let me tell you what else did I do.
What else?
I welcomed 2 investors to meet 2 of my projects. I also made the speaker of my stage bend forward because it was disturbing the panel. And I also messaged Oscar that I'm here.
Now that is multitasking. Thank you so much, everyone. A great panel, great discussion. Good job.
Absolutely.
All right. So, hey, let's talk about startups. Let's talk about VCs, venture capitalists.